Well, I think we've got the proof now in the pudding, as they say, that these riots in LA are going very, very badly. I mean, it's a bad thing in general, obviously. You never want to see these kinds of things, scenes, incidents, insurrection, if you want to go that far on the streets. But as far as who's organizing them and what they were hoping to get out of this, and now we know they're organized, and I have some proof for you coming up here in just a second. It's not going well. It's not having the desired effect, including spreading out into some other cities, which I'm sure you've all heard about, because that's already been attempted, and it got put down like right away. And amazingly, even CNN had to talk about Trump's immigration numbers and his stance on immigration, how that skyrocketed up. Anyway, we'll give you an update on the LA riots, what's going on with all that stuff. It's not good, but it's not having the effect. But it won't be all riot-related stuff. We'll also talk about how the media is covering this whole thing. And an amazing story about drinking and Gen Z. They don't drink. Now, immediately that's bad for the alcohol industry, but, that is what it is. But it's good for everybody else. And it's good for my fellow parents who are trying to tell you kids about the dangers of too much drinking, and the after effects of it. But it's a stunning statistic that just came out that looks to be pretty much provable. And it affected my own life here because I have a daughter that just turned 21, and she was telling me about this among her generation. It's unbelievable. I don't know what they're going to be into, but it's great for kids who have no interest whatsoever in getting into alcohol. So maybe they'll turn to something else. I don't know, but digging into a big societal story on that one. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio. I appreciate you so much. Here is the live stream. If you're watching on the replay later on X, make sure you follow, put notifications on, all that good stuff. Audio podcasts will be posted wherever you like to get those in just a little bit. But in the meantime, let's get a little update. What's going on? Let's check in on the soothing sounds of downtown Los Angeles right now. Let's put our ears to the west and see what that sounds like. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? There you go. Actually, not fair. That was last night. That was some rioting in the wee morning hours of LA time. They're probably all sleeping right now, but that continued last night. It was amazing. One of the LA news stations had Mayor Karen Bass. She had a couple of press conferences yesterday, live on the air as one of their helicopter cameras zoomed in on some of the rioting, and she's sitting there going, oh no, that's bad. Which gives you an idea of this picture they're trying to portray. There's two different things going on here. There's two different movies being shown at the same time. What everybody is seeing, what everybody says in real time, street reporters, independent media, even the local channels out there, the national networks have been covering this for all to see. It's like you can't hide it. Like even if you wanted to pan away and stay away from the worst of the writing, you can't. There's just too much of it, right? Everybody sees it. And yet you've got media people telling you, well, this is really no different. There was an LA official that actually said yesterday on the air on one of their local stations, it's nothing different than after celebrating a championship game. So they're trying their absolute best to try to cover this up. And they're on like day 4 of this thing now, and to try to tell you that this is just normal. This is just normal. This is a normal thing. While the rest of the country is going, no, it's not. And now we're hearing from a lot of LA residents that don't live in that particular area going, yeah, I don't care. I don't go down there. It's a shithole. I won't go. But it's backfiring incredibly badly in so many different ways. Now, the argument yesterday, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, it seems obvious to anybody with 2 working eyeballs and 2 brain cells that this is organized by somebody. We went into some of the organizations that have been funding this thing, some NGOs that actually got millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars from state California money, from taxpayers. And it winds up, being funded and organizing some of these riots. So that's all been published. Everybody's aware of it now. But again, what really matters in this digital age is when you see it with your own eyeballs, when you see it, when you happen to tune in on a lunch break, or you get home from work yesterday and you actually tune into some of the media and you see this stuff and you're going, I'm looking at this right now, and there's so much coverage of it that it can't be untrue. And yet they'll have these talking heads on afterwards telling you that's not happening. It's not organized. These are just people who are trying to fight for their rights. Right. Well, nobody's believing it anymore, including because of this. Now, this is, again, a clip, and I know this is mostly a visual, but this is one of the LA news station's helicopters zooming in on one of the intersections about mid-afternoon LA time yesterday. And this is what they saw. A truck, 2 trucks, pull up with supplies in the back, okay? And you'll hear the news anchor looking at the coverage, looking at the monitor on his desk as it's happening. And listen to what he describes as what's in the back of the truck and being handed out, because it's incredible. And this is one of those things. This is why their coverage of it, not that news station, this is why the talking heads and the politicians and the propagandists are losing this argument day by day as it goes on, because you can't fool people anymore. Here's Fox LA just yesterday.
Describe where it just feels like something's going to happen and you're waiting for it to happen. And you can look around, you see the National Guard in front of the federal building, but as far as this intersection where we're seeing all this take place, there's no local police to be seen.
Yeah.
And we have people handing out masks and gas masks, and we just saw people graffitiing the sidewalk right in front of this truck, and we've seen people doing burnouts in the street. There's no local law enforcement around.
Because they're overwhelmed. He's talking about local law enforcement, the LAPD. They're completely overwhelmed. So here's the first update on that one. The White House, the administration has upped it to 4,000 National Guard. They've approved another 2,000 that'll be heading to LA if they're not there already. And now, Semper Fi LA, 700 Marines are on their way. And, this has caused the big reaction. What kind of government would do that? One that wants to help the innocent civilians in a city that's been overrun by anarchy. That's what kind of government does that. Absolutely. Back to a quick update on what he was talking about. They were handing out supplies, looks like gas masks. Here's what else they were handing out. While he was talking, and I don't think he was able to actually read this live on the air, the guy's under pressure, the TV news helicopter zoomed in on one of the boxes that this guy was handing out in the back of a pickup truck. Right on the side, as it so happens, the label of the big industrial white box that he put on the street, couple of them, was bionic face shields. No, not for the cops. No, that wasn't from the National Guard. No. These are supplies of gas masks and, I'm reading it again, bionic face shields in boxes being handed out to rioters and protesters. But yeah, it's all organic, and that's not funded. There's your proof, and that's what people see. Now, when people see a clip like that, and that clip from Fox LA has gone viral, it's been seen millions of times now across the country, okay? Imagine thinking before yesterday, this is totally organic. These are just people who want to fight against, the immigration crackdown. They want to protest against ICE. Imagine thinking that yesterday, and then you see trucks organized with supplies bought and paid for by some of these other organizations, handing them out, including bionic face shields to rioters. If you see that and you still say, no, it's totally organic, you functionally mentally have a problem, because most people saw that. Most people in the country saw that and they said, this is 100% paid riots. This is not organic at all. Of course it is. So if you needed one last little shred of proof that this is all organized by people that want to divide and create anarchy and chaos, well, there you go. Bionic face shields in boxes. Thank God that when he placed the box down on the ground, he didn't know a helicopter was overhead. The label said right on the side of it exactly what it was as he's handing out his own tear gas, fireworks, face masks. Yeah, but it's totally organic. Right. Which is why, back to my original point in the introduction, this is backfiring so very, 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 very badly. First of all, you might have seen this story yesterday, and this is going to make you feel good about it, better about this whole thing, because it was scary. I think it was CNN, Fox might have picked up on it, local organizations, your X feed, whatever it was, maybe even on Facebook, saw some maps with these scary red dots all over the country, and they were all over. These were all the organized protests, they'll call them, riots, that they would try to do throughout the summer in various cities. And I think it was every major metropolitan area in the country was covered on this map you might have seen floating around. I wouldn't be so sure. They tried one in Tampa yesterday, Tampa, Florida, on the West Coast, and they were blocking a street, major downtown street, might have been Dale Mabry, I don't know what it was, and they tried, and they had their flags, and they were trying to block traffic. The counter-protest there shut that down. I'd put it less than 10 minutes as people did not, and shouting at him to go home, get out of the street, get it. And then the cops showed up and they quelled it. That was supposed to be one of the major first protests on this. Ain't happening in a city like that. I'm sure it's going to be big in cities like New York and Chicago, LA again, San Francisco, I'm sure. Boston will have them as well. But I wouldn't be so sure, and this will make you feel better about that. I wouldn't worry about this stuff breaking out too much in the rest of the country because people aren't having it anymore. People are not putting up with this anymore. You want proof? Now, this is a poll. I get it. How we feel about polls, it's like, oh, you can't trust them, whatever. I know. I get it. I hear that. But when CNN comes out with something that kind of defeats their counter-argument and kind of goes against what their talking heads were saying 5 minutes before, and they're kind of like forced into reporting their own poll, you tend to believe it. It has a little bit more credibility. CNN last night talking about President Trump's approval ratings as far as immigration goes. And it includes the deportations. That's all part of this question that they asked in their poll. It pains them to report this, but even they had to because it's their own survey. This is CNN last night. How's President Trump's approval ratings on deportation and immigration, the whole issue combined, going?
You know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating.
This is backfiring. Whatever the organized insurrectionists, anarchists, whatever the hell these anti-American Marxist organizations funding this thing and organizing, whatever they were trying to accomplish, this has failed so incredibly badly to the point where, and this is like when you know it's going really badly, to the point where there's probably going to be less coverage of it going forward, unless a new one breaks out and God forbid something really bad happens. This is, as you just heard there, I'd believe CNN when they talk about good. When CNN talks about good Trump news, you know it's true because it pains them to report it, okay? His approval ratings on deportation, sending in the military, there are a bunch of other side topics, all going up. That's backfiring badly. Also on this, if you were trying to get this to raise attention to the immigration issue, these riots, and that's exactly what they are, organized, paid for, funded, and violent, this is the best advertisement for deportation you could ever possibly have. Ever. Because now more people than ever in this country are in favor of it. You just heard it right there for Trump's own approval ratings. If you were to get an honest answer, I mean truly, from anybody, if they trusted the polls, the media organizations, and they told you the truth about deportation, around election time, it was in the 60s, 60% support. That's among all people, Democrats too. What do you think it is now after seeing this? You just talk to regular people. I was talking about this yesterday. Just talk to regular people in your social circle or work without inflaming the situation. Just get their whole feel about this. Just keep your ear to the grindstone and listen to what they say. Most people in their heart of hearts are saying now, oh yeah, no, they need to deport the bad people. That's what they'll tell you if they're honest about it. But if they don't tell you, that's what they're thinking it inside. That's the way this is going. The worst backfiring, the worst public plan of all time. Which is why, and on the update on this, with President Trump sending in now 700, and this will grow, United States Marines, there is a lot of support for that. Whether or not your local news agency or CNN or anybody, even Fox is going to tell you the truth, there's a lot of support for sending the Marines in, and they do not mess around. Oh, here's another update. I don't even get into his name because I don't really care. The takeaway to me is Pam Bondi was on Fox last night. She was talking about the arrest. They put out a big search warrant, so you know they were going to find him. Remember the guy, I think it was on Sunday, who was standing by an overpass in L.A. on a major freeway, and he was breaking up chunks of concrete, and he was throwing them at police cruisers. I think they were ICE vehicles he was throwing at. He was smashing windshields, and one agent got his arm really mangled up. They put out a full-scale alert for that guy. And they found him. Of course, they're going to find him. Here's the takeaway. I don't even care what his name is. Whatever. They arrested him. He's still in jail in L.A. He's 43. I don't know whether he's a resident or not. I have no idea. I don't know what his immigration status is, but he's 43 years old. Can you imagine living on God's green earth 43 years and you think that's a good idea, and you think somehow they're not going to find you on a camera. And how did they get the clear shot? After a while, the helicopter cameras found him, but I think somebody actually had a cell phone camera on him and posted it. And you don't think they're going to find you? And you think that's a good idea to get your point across? What kind of an absolute destitute loser would you have to be 43 years old and throwing hunks of concrete down at cars, any cars, whether you agree with the ICE agents or not? Oh, yeah. Gee, there's a shocker. They found him within 24 hours. God, here's your other update on that. Well, we talked about the two screens at once because most Americans see this because you can't hide it. It's too big of a story, and you're like, oh, man, that's really bad. And then you'll turn to some talking head news anchor saying, it's really not any different than a sports team's celebration. Okay, right. And then you've got the BET Awards, which apparently happened last night, I believe. The BET, the Black Entertainment Television Awards. You know, they've been going on for, God, I think a couple of decades now. Not highly publicized anymore. They don't get a lot of ratings. They just don't. Maybe here's a reason why. Now, this is after at least 3.5, maybe into the fourth day of rioting in L.A. that everybody has seen so far. Or at least you've seen a clip of it, right? And yet, one of the award winners uses her speech to advocate for the riots because she still thinks they're peaceful protests, or is at least lying on the surface about that. Can you imagine? And it makes sense why she got such a lukewarm response in the audience, let alone in the TV audience. So this is a winner. I'm sure I'm massacring her name. I have no idea. I've never heard of her before, but she won some kind of BET award. Doechii? Doechii? I don't know. You got me. I honestly have no idea. I didn't really want to spend the time to look it up. I have no idea. But here she is accepting her BET award last night. Now, again, the background is, by this time, 3.5, 4 days into rioting, the whole country has seen what's going on. Everybody sees it with your own eyeballs, right? Everybody sees what's happening. Here's her takeaway. And she used this as an opportunity to denounce putting down still calling them peaceful protests. Okay.
There are ruthless attacks that are creating fear and chaos in our communities in the name of law and order. Trump is using military forces to stop a protest. And I want y'all to consider what kind of government it appears to be when every time we exercise our democratic right to protest, the military is deployed against us.
And the crowd goes wild. Kind of a lukewarm response. It got louder at the end when she was finally walking off the stage. But there's two possibilities. She was told as I think a new artist. Again, I claim my ignorance here. Doechii, I think that's her name. I don't know anything about her. I don't know how big she is. I have no idea. No idea. Which is good because I got to be objective about this. She's either put up to saying that by the producers of the show, which didn't yank her off stage or play her off with the music or whatever, or she really thinks this herself. Like she really believes this. And a lot of celebrities have been like this. She really thinks that stopping a riot and anarchy in a major American city in the downtown area is too militaristic and too much and using too much force. Again, to the theme, this is why this is backfiring so badly. And you hear somebody like that, and then the after effect of it. So you had maybe a whole day or you were on your phone at the same time and you happen to be watching the BET Awards. So imagine the situation if you're into that kind of thing. You're on the couch, on the phone, and even on TikTok or something or Facebook, and you're seeing video after video of riots in L.A. And at the same time, you've got a BET Award winner on stage saying that. Two different things. They don't jive. They don't add up. That's why people believe their own eyes over the words of somebody like that. Because that's insane, man. I don't know. Which explains the lukewarm response she got. Speaking of crazy, and I'll throw this out there too, and you let me know what you think about this possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. I just want to know what you think about the possibility. Whatever platform we're watching on or listening to right now, throw this in there in the comments whether you would be, we'll make it simple. Yes or no, okay? And here's the question. Would you support it's not going to happen. Would you support deporting an elected lawmaker? Because it's actually happening. And I'm sure she's not the only one, but she was, maybe she thinks this is a brave thing. Maybe she didn't get the message that this is backfiring badly for all these politicians in favor of an open border. I didn't even catch her name. It doesn't really matter. But she's a state representative in Minnesota. She was on her House floor, the Minnesota House floor in Minneapolis yesterday. And she made the admission that she's an illegal immigrant because her parents were here illegally and they used a different name, blah, 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 whatever. Here she is making the admission. And then think about the question. Theoretically, as a statement, right, as to make an example of somebody, would you support a U.S. elected official in any capacity, state, local, federal, whatever, being deported if they're an illegal immigrant because they're not supposed to be elected? Well, here she was.
Grandmother down as his mother. And so I am illegal in this country. My parents are illegal here in this country.
I didn't catch her name. I don't know. It's not really that relevant to the story because she's not the only one. I'm sure there are plenty of local elected representatives, even at the state level like her in Minnesota, who are here illegally and shouldn't be in office. Again, it's not going to go this far. I would be shocked if it ever went this far. But again, and throw it into the comment section, whatever platform you're on, and we'll check into these in a couple of minutes and see what people say. Theoretically, would you support an elected official being deported to make an example of him or her? I think I know what the answer is, but we'll check in a minute. But there you go. All right, let's get out of all the riots and immigration and deportation stuff for a quick second and talk about this. My daughter, I've now 2 kids in their 20s. One just turned 21 over the weekend. My baby girl. We're so proud of her, and I was joking around and you know, we went out to a nice restaurant Sunday night for her birthday, and she's 21 now. So she ordered a drink, and she was all excited about that. And then I'm joking around saying, "It's your first legal drink. It's your first alcoholic drink ever, right?" Right. I know better as a dad than to believe that. But she brings this up in the conversation. I was fascinated by this. She said, "Yeah, you know, I honestly, maybe you believe me, maybe you don't, but kids my age," and she's talking about Gen Z. She's 21. She's in college. Just really don't drink a lot. I went, well, that's different. My first thought went to where she goes to school, right? A lot of them are theatrical kids and athletes, and they're, dancers, and they have to do, take care of their body, and then maybe that's when they're so busy too. Maybe that's why. Maybe the party at her place and her whole scene is a little bit down. I asked her that, and she said, no, it's just not that popular with my age group. I'm always up for digging into a big sociological story because I love that kind of stuff. I love social trends and where they go. It's like if there's anything I'm good at, that's looking at social trends and seeing where things are going in the future. So I said, Next day, I was still thinking about what she said. And I was glad to hear that, obviously, because I trust her and I trust her opinion on this. And I looked it up. And lo and behold, it was a trending story, and maybe that's why she brought it up too. It was a trending story that particular day in the early part of the work week. Gen Z and alcohol use. As it turns out, she's right. At least according to the statistics, and this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But there's been a bunch of different stories about this, and a bunch of different stories over the last couple of years, and it's all trending in the right direction. It appears to be the case. A fading bond. Now, for boomers, this is annual expenditure of alcohol beverages. For boomers, right? By generation. 25. That's the most. Is what it is. Okay. And then it goes to Gen X. That's me, and that's still just a tick under that. And it's something like in the tens of millions. Like for Gen X, it's like 23 million. Millennials, slightly older than Gen X, it's just about on par with Gen X. It falls down to about maybe a 20th of that for Gen Z. And they've got enough kids into Gen Z now, which is my daughter's age, right around the early 20s, about their alcohol consumption. It turns out it's true. They don't drink. I don't know why this is. Maybe it's the business person in me. My first thought went to bars, restaurants, and breweries and all that other stuff, and now that's going to be hurting, which is tough. They're going to have to adjust somewhere, and I don't know what's going to make up for the difference, but then I thought about it, and you always ask the question, this is what I'm always talking about, what's good, what's great about this? If you're a parent, there's much less of a chance then, if you've got a college-age kid, that they're going to be that much into alcohol. Of course it still happens. Of course it does. Of course there's still going to be frat parties. Of course there are, and sorority parties, and just keggers, whatever. Fine. That's what it is. Here's the really good takeaway on this, though. This is how it's great for families with less and less people in Gen Z, kids in their early 20s. Just think of early 20s. Drinking. It's a lot easier on parents, number one, to talk to them about not getting into alcohol. It's a much easier fight for us because they're hearing it a lot these days. And it's great news for those kids who don't want to drink. Think about yourself or college kids, anybody you ever knew at that age. Go back a little bit and think about it. A lot of them didn't want to, but got pressured into drinking, and it became part of the lifestyle. This is a good trend. Bad for business. It's bad for the alcohol producers. I get that. So they're going to have to make that up somewhere else, but it's good for everybody else that never really wanted to drink in the first place. It's an amazing societal trend. And I don't think it's changing anyway because your habits are formed at this age. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Takeaway, I think it's a good thing. All right. I asked for your comments, different platforms coming in. I can't tell. I have StreamYard. I can't tell what platform, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or X or whatever these are coming in for. But I asked the question from that Minnesota State rep yesterday. This is funny. Simple yes or no. I won't do names. Would you be in favor of deporting to make an example of an elected official deporting them if they're here illegally just to make an example of them? Yes, yes, hell yes, 2 hell yeses, yes, yes, no. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah, okay. I asked it a couple of minutes ago, and everybody, I get how you feel. Now, keep in mind, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's an amazing development. All right. Thanks for finding me. I appreciate it. I'm out of material. I got to get out of here. So do you. A wicked awesome Tuesday. The takeaway, don't fall for anybody telling you that these riots in LA are having an effect. The only effect they're having is a huge backfire. It's not going well at all. And the second takeaway in the Gen Z drinking story, that's a good thing. Take that as a good thing because there's much less pressure to get involved in drinking in the first place. So it's good for parents and kids. We'll take it. We'll take that any day of the week. Thanks for finding me. As always, I appreciate you. If you're watching on the live stream later on any of these platforms, make sure you follow and put notifications on. And also the audio podcast is going to be posted in just a couple of minutes, so that'll be available for you to tune as well very soon. More comments are coming in. Yes, deport. All right, I get how you feel. Have a wicked awesome Tuesday. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. Don't take any crap from anybody. We'll talk to you then.